The snowfield lay open beneath the ridge. It stretched wide and uninterrupted, a shallow basin filled with wind-packed snow that reflected the pale winter sky almost perfectly. No trees broke its surface, no rocks rose high enough to offer cover. It was a place where movement was visible long before it arrived. The lynx watched from above. She lay half-hidden among low, snow-dusted fir branches near the edge of the ridge, her body pressed into a natural hollow where wind had scoured the ground down to hardened crust. Her fur blended into the broken pattern of shadow and frost, pale chest, mottled flanks, darker lines along her legs dissolving into shade. Only her eyes moved. Wide-set and forward-facing, they remained fixed on the snowfield below, unblinking, absorbing detail with patient intensity. Lynx did not scan constantly. They selected, then waited. The cold was deep, not biting, not sharp, settled. The kind of cold that slowed everything evenly, from breath to sound to decision. Snow crystals squeaked faintly when wind brushed across them, a brittle sound that travelled farther than it should have in the still air. The lynx breathed slowly. Her ears, tipped with dark tufts, rotated in small, precise increments, catching sound that never resolved into shape. Distant wind, a branch shedding snow, the faint scrape of ice far below the surface of the field. Nothing moved. That was expected. Snowfields demanded patience. Prey crossed them reluctantly, exposed to sky and silence. When they did, it was usually quick and direct, a dash from cover to cover. Missed opportunities here were common. Waiting was not optional. The lynx had been here before dawn. She had chosen this position because the slope allowed her to watch without being seen, and because the sun, when it rose, would sit behind her, flattening her shadow into the ridge rather than projecting it forward. Light mattered. As the sun climbed, it reached the far edge of the snowfield first, turning the surface faintly pink, then white again as glare intensified. Shadows from distant trees stretched across the field in long, thin lines, pointing toward her position. They moved slowly, correctly. Then something changed. The lynx noticed it instantly. One shadow shifted in a way that did not match the angle of the sun. It shortened instead of lengthening, thickened where it should have thinned. The movement was slight, something a human eye might never question, but to a predator that lived by geometry and contrast, it was wrong. Her body did not move, but her attention narrowed. The shadow wavered again, no longer crisp against the snow. It blurred at the edges, then paused. Wind did not behave like this. Trees did not either. The lynx adjusted her head by a fraction of a degree. Depth resolved. The shadow belonged to something low, close to the surface, moving against the slope rather than across it. Its shape broke apart and reformed as it passed through uneven snow, revealing nothing directly, only absence where light should have been uninterrupted. Prey. Small, cautious, a snowshoe hare. The lynx felt the shift internally, not excitement, not urgency, but alignment. Muscle tone increased slightly along her back and shoulders. Claws flexed once into the crust beneath her paws, testing purchase. She did not move. The hare had not committed yet. It remained near the edge of the field, using the shallow depression along the snowbank as partial cover. Its body stayed hidden, but its shadow betrayed hesitation. The lynx waited for error. Wind brushed the snowfield again, flattening surface texture and briefly erasing contrast. When it passed, the shadow returned, closer now, more defined, stretching longer than before. The hare stepped fully into the open. Its body appeared suddenly, compact and pale, ears upright, eyes wide. It paused, assessing distance to the next line of trees. The open snow between them offered no forgiveness. The lynx lowered her head. Her body remained still, but every line of her was now directed forward. Distance measured itself without conscious thought. Snow depth, slope angle. The moment when hesitation would turn into motion. The shadows moved wrong no longer. They moved truthfully. and the Snowfield, quiet and exposed, prepared to collapse into speed. The hare moved first. It did not bolt immediately. That came later. First, it shifted its weight, compressing the snow beneath its hind legs just enough to test resistance. Snow that held firm meant speed. Snow that collapsed meant death. The lynx saw the test. Her muscles tightened in response, not to move yet, but to prepare. She did not launch at the moment of discovery. That was not how lynx hunted. Snowfields punished impatience. They rewarded accuracy. The hare took a step, then another. Its body stayed low, ears angled backward now, listening for sound that might already be too late. The open space in front of it looked vast, but it was not uniform. Wind had carved shallow ridges and depressions, some hard enough to run on, others soft enough to trap a foot. The lynx mapped them instantly. She had crossed this snowfield days earlier, testing its structure, learning where crust held and where powder swallowed weight. Memory mattered here as much as sight. The hare committed. Its hind legs drove forward hard, launching the body into motion. Snow sprayed behind it in a sudden burst, the sound sharp and unmistakable in the cold air. It ran not straight, but slightly uphill, angling toward a stand of trees where cover waited. The lynx moved. She did not leap downward in a single explosive motion. That would have sacrificed control. Instead, she flowed forward and down, her body stretching low to the ground as she entered the slope at speed, paws landing precisely where crust resisted rather than broke. Her stride was longer than the hare's. Not faster at first, longer. Each bound carried her farther with less effort, her weight distributed across wide, fur-lined paws that skimmed where smaller feet punched through. Snow cracked softly beneath her, but did not give way. The distance between them closed. The hare zigzagged. Instinct drove it to break pursuit, to force correction. It darted left toward a shallow drift, then right again, legs pumping hard, breath visible in sharp bursts. The lynx adjusted without slowing. Her body rolled slightly with each change in direction, tail extended for balance, head steady, eyes locked on the center of the hare's mass rather than its limbs. She did not chase movement. She chased trajectory. The snowfield offered no sound cover. Each impact echoed faintly, a rapid rhythm of strikes, light and frantic ahead, heavier and controlled behind. The cold air carried it all, flattening distance. The hare stumbled. Just once. One hind foot punched through a thin patch of crust, sinking deeper than expected. The body lurched forward, momentum carrying it on, but speed bled away for a fraction of a second. That was enough. The lynx surged. She gathered herself into a single powerful bound, launching forward and slightly upward, claws extending instinctively as she closed the final distance. Her chest skimmed the snow, her back legs driving hard, pushing everything she had into one correction-free moment. The hare felt it then. Not the impact, the inevitability. It twisted sharply, attempting a last-second angle change, body folding inward to reduce target size. Snow sprayed outward as it tried to redirect force that no longer existed. The lynx struck the ground where the hare had been, not where it was. Her paws hit hard, claws carving into crust that finally failed beneath her weight. Snow collapsed, swallowing her forelimbs up to the elbow. The sudden loss of resistance forced her body forward and down, momentum spilling into the surface rather than carrying her onward. The hare escaped the strike, barely. It gained distance again, legs burning, path now direct and desperate. The trees were close, closer than before, but so was exhaustion. Its breathing grew ragged, timing breaking down. The lynx recovered instantly. She pulled her forelimbs free with a single efficient motion and resumed pursuit, but the rhythm had changed. The snow here was softer. Each step now cost more. Each bound required recalculation. The gap stabilized. Neither animal gained. Neither slowed enough to fail. They crossed the center of the snowfield like this. Two bodies moving through space governed by physics alone. No noise but breath and impact, no thought but alignment. The trees loomed closer. The hare reached the edge first. It dove into cover without hesitation, vanishing into shadow and tangled undergrowth where snow gave way to branches and uneven ground. Its body disappeared as completely as if the field had never held it. The lynx slowed sharply at the boundary. She did not enter the trees at speed. That would have invited injury. Instead, she decelerated in controlled steps, claws digging in to shed momentum safely, breath coming fast now, steam rising from her muzzle. She stopped, just inside the shade. Her ears strained forward, reading sound that fragmented immediately among trunks and brush. The hare crashed away through cover, noise loud but directionless, scattering information faster than it could be processed. The lynx did not follow. Not yet. Snowfields demanded commitment, forests demanded caution. The geometry had changed again, and with it, the rules. She stood still, chest heaving, muscles alive with stored motion that had nowhere to go. The chase had not ended in capture, but it had not ended in failure either. The snowfield behind her lay scarred now, marked by tracks and broken crust, a visible record of speed and error. Above it, the light held steady. The shadows no longer lied. They told the truth about what had passed, and what might still happen if patience outlasted panic. The forest closed immediately. Light fractured into narrow shafts that shifted with every branch and needle. Snow lay unevenly here, trapped in pockets between roots and fallen limbs, compacted in some places, loose in others. Nothing was uniform, nothing repeated. The lynx stood just inside the tree line and waited. Her breathing slowed deliberately, chest rising less with each cycle as heat dispersed into the cold shade. Steam faded from her muzzle. Muscles that had carried her across open ground now held tension without motion. Here, speed meant nothing. Sound mattered more. The hare had entered the trees in panic, crashing through brush, snapping twigs, spraying loose snow with each frantic bound. That noise had travelled far, too far, and then broken apart into fragments that meant little on their own. The lynx listened past it. She ignored the loudest sounds first. Panic lied. It scattered information faster than it revealed it. Instead, she waited for what came after, the correction, the hesitation, the moment when exhaustion forced a choice. It came, not as noise, as rhythm. Somewhere ahead, the pattern of movement changed. The hare slowed just enough for its steps to fall out of sync. A pause stretched too long. Snow settled where it should have been thrown aside. The lynx moved, not forward, sideways. She angled along the slope, choosing a path that paralleled the hare's likely line rather than following it directly. Forest chases rewarded interception, not pursuit. The lynx slipped between trees with practiced ease, placing her paws where snow had already compacted, avoiding dead branches that would announce her. Her body stayed low, tail still. Ears rotated constantly, isolating sound from echo, real movement from collapse of snow that meant nothing. Every few steps she paused, letting the forest speak without interference. The hare changed direction again, this time deliberately. It cut downhill, aiming for denser cover where trunks stood closer together and sightlines shortened further. The move cost speed, but promised concealment. The lynx anticipated it. She adjusted her angle subtly, shortening the distance without revealing herself. The gap closed not because she moved faster, but because she moved correctly. The forest tightened, branches pressed closer, snow deepened in shaded pockets. The hare burst into a small clearing no wider than a body length, hesitated for a fraction of a second, then chose the narrowest exit, a tunnel beneath low-hanging branches where snow lay deep and soft. That was the mistake. The lynx surged, not a long chase now, not a drawn-out pursuit, just a brief explosion of movement from shadow into motion. Her body unfolded in one fluid leap, claws extended not to strike blindly, but to hook and control. The hare felt her then. It twisted sharply, body folding inward, trying to slip sideways through the opening. Snow collapsed under both of them, muffling sound, swallowing detail. They hit together. The lynx's forelimbs wrapped around the hare's body, claws finding fur and muscle through thick winter coat. The impact drove them both into the drift, momentum spilling sideways instead of forward. The hare kicked hard, hind legs flailing, striking snow and air in rapid, desperate bursts. One foot caught the lynx's flank, glancing off fur and muscle without purchase. The lynx tightened her grip. Not crushing, controlling. Her jaws closed at the base of the hare's neck, precise and final. Pressure increased steadily, not violently. The struggle weakened quickly, breath escaping in short broken sounds that faded into nothing. The forest went quiet. Snow settled back into place, erasing the sharpness of motion almost immediately. Only disturbed branches and a shallow depression marked where speed had ended. The lynx held still for several seconds longer. This was not caution, it was confirmation. When she released, the hare lay limp beneath her, body already cooling in the shade. The lynx adjusted her grip and dragged it slightly farther under cover, away from the open edge of the snowfield. Here, she could feed safely. Above them, light shifted again, shadows sliding across trunks in predictable lines. No lies now, no wrong angles, only aftermath. The lynx lowered her head and fed quietly, tearing fur and flesh with practiced efficiency. She ate without urgency, but without pause. The chase had cost energy. The forest had demanded precision. Both had been paid for. Outside the trees, the snowfield lay still once more. Tracks would fill with drifting crystals by morning. The geometry of speed would vanish. Only the forest would remember, and it would forget soon enough. The lynx fed until hunger loosened its hold, then paused, lifting her head, ears forward. The world had narrowed again, and within that narrowing, balance had returned. By morning, the forest had changed its tone. The cold deepened overnight, settling into the ground and branches with a firmness that erased softness. Snow crystals hardened, their surfaces reflecting light more cleanly as dawn spread slowly through the trees. The lynx lay curled beneath a dense fir, her body tucked close to the trunk where falling snow gathered thickest. Her breathing was slow, and even now, heat conserved beneath layered fur. Only one ear twitched occasionally, responding to distant sound that never resolved into threat. What remained of the hare was gone. Not entirely, nothing ever vanished completely, but enough that hunger no longer pressed. Fur and bone lay scattered beneath fresh snowfall, already losing definition as crystals filled the spaces between. The forest accepted it. Above, the snowfield caught the first light. From the ridge, it looked untouched again, smooth, pale, indifferent. Tracks from the chase had softened overnight, edges rounding, depth filling in. By midday, wind would finish the work, flattening what geometry had briefly recorded. The shadows moved correctly now. They stretched and shortened exactly as the sun dictated, sliding across the field in long, clean lines that told no story. To any eye arriving late, the place would appear empty, uneventful, safe. That was how it always was. The lynx rose slowly and stretched, limbs extending one at a time to test stiffness. Snow fell from her fur in small clumps. She stepped away from the feeding site without looking back, moving upslope where cover thickened and scent dispersed more easily. She did not return to the ridge. There was no reason to. The snowfield had served its purpose. It would offer nothing new today. Hunting grounds changed with light, with wind, with absence as much as presence. Staying too long invited nothing. As she moved, the forest closed behind her. Branches settled. Snow slipped from needles and fell softly, masking sound and sign. Within minutes, even her passage became difficult to read. Above the trees, the snowfield lay open and quiet. No movement crossed it, no shadow shifted incorrectly, and somewhere beyond sight, the lynx became part of the forest again, Another shape absorbed by terrain that remembered just long enough to matter, then forgot completely. The snow closed, the balance held, and winter continued, exact and indifferent, offering nothing freely, but taking nothing it had not already accounted for.